Is there trouble in paradise for Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton? Divorce rumors are circulating, and here's everything we know.
Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani seemed like the ultimate comeback love story. Two broken hearts finding each other on The Voice, healing together, building a new life. They've released duets, gotten married, and constantly gushed about their relationship. But lately, something's changed. Breakup rumors keep surfacing. Songs with heartbreaking lyrics keep dropping, and people who know them best are starting to talk. Clarkson, their fellow voice coach and close friend, has watched their relationship from the inside, and what she's witnessed tells a different story from the perfect romance we see on social media. The truth about Gwen and Blake's relationship is more complicated and sadder than anyone wants to admit. The song that started everything. In early 2025, Gwen Stefani put out a song that had people tilting their heads a little. It was called Hangin' On. I hear you hanging on the other side of this town. And she recorded it with Blake. Now, that isn't unusual for them. They've done plenty of duets, sweet ones, fun ones, country pop blends that fans ate up. But this track didn't give off that easy romantic glow they usually lean into. It carried a different weight, a quieter tension. The lyrics focused on a relationship that felt like it was slipping through someone's fingers, holding on, even when things feel cracked, trying to fix something without knowing if it's even fixable anymore. It wasn't angry or dramatic, just tired, honest, a little raw. And then Blake did press for it. He tried to make it sound lighthearted, brushing it off, joking around like he always does, but he slipped a tiny comment in that made people pause. It was one of those offhand remarks that doesn't scream anything, but definitely whispers something. People caught it, replayed it, and wondered why he'd even feel the need to clarify anything in the first place, especially when your romantic duet suddenly sounds like a therapy session set to music. Once that tiny moment got people speculating, it didn't take long for the next spark to hit. Not even a month later, Gwen released the deluxe version of her Bouquet album, and tucked inside was another emotional track called Still Gonna Love You. And this one felt even heavier. The kind of lyrics that make you sit down because they're clearly coming from somewhere personal. Lines about trying not to judge someone you love, forgiving them before they even ask, accepting pain even when you know the other person isn't intentionally causing it. Those aren't the words of someone sliding through life effortlessly. They sound like someone working hard to keep a relationship intact, someone grappling with emotions they didn't expect to face. And releasing two songs like that, back to back, right after months of people whispering about marriage trouble, it didn't go unnoticed. Clarkson, of all people, understood the layers immediately. She knows both Gwen and Blake far beyond the surface. Years on The Voice bonded them in ways most fans don't see. Long filming days, private conversations backstage, those good moments and messy ones that happen off camera. Kelly was there during Gwen's giddy early days with Blake, watching her light up when she talked about him. She was there whenever Gwen opened up on her talk show, sharing her hopes, her excitement, the feeling of starting something new after heartbreak. So when these new songs came out, Kelly didn't just hear tracks climbing the charts. She heard tone shifts. She heard exhaustion. She heard familiar pain. Kelly's been through a public breakup herself, so she knows what it sounds like when someone is singing from a place that isn't entirely healed. People close to the situation say she worried about Gwen the moment she listened closely. Not because of the music industry gossip, but because she recognized the emotional cracks forming in the background. And that brings us to something that most people have never heard about, a piece of the story that cuts deeper than fans expect. The jealousy no one expected. Here's something most people don't know. Back in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic when everyone was exhausted and doing their best to stay afloat,
a global coronavirus. It is a pandemic at this point.
Gwen Stefani admitted she was jealous of Clarkson. And it wasn't the kind of jealousy people like to assume. It wasn't about Blake or competition or anything messy like that. It was something much more human. Gwen couldn't wrap her head around how Kelly was still managing to write music while raising kids, running a talk show, dealing with a packed career, and handling the same global uncertainty everyone else was feeling. At the time, Gwen had stepped away from that creative rhythm. She'd been deep into parenting her 3 boys, trying to build some normalcy around life with Blake, and letting music take a back seat. For someone who built her entire identity on songwriting and performance, that shift wasn't easy. It left her feeling disconnected from the part of herself that had always kept her grounded. And seeing Kelly continue to push through creatively only made Gwen feel the gap even more. What Gwen didn't know then was the weight Kelly was carrying. Kelly wasn't just being productive or disciplined. She wasn't thriving in a peaceful environment. She was writing from a place of pain because she was going through a difficult divorce from Brandon Blackstock. Her creativity wasn't coming from balance, it was coming from survival. But Gwen had no idea. She only saw the end result. A woman producing music during a time when most people could barely keep track of the day of the week. Still, that moment revealed something meaningful. Gwen was feeling lost, and not lost in a dramatic way. More like that slow, quiet kind of lost where you start wondering when you stopped doing the thing that used to make you feel like yourself. Even with Blake in her life, even with the stability she thought she had finally found after her complicated split from Gavin Rossdale, she still felt adrift. Like the version of Gwen who confidently ran No Doubt, toured the world, and wrote some of the biggest songs of her era had faded into the background. Kelly could see it. She's been through her own share of public breakdowns and rebuilds. She knows what it looks like when someone is holding it together on the outside, but isn't really steady on the inside. Kelly was also rebuilding in 2020, writing through heartbreak, and learning how to exist without the marriage she thought would last. When she looked at Gwen, she didn't just see another celebrity. She saw someone quietly trying to find her way back to herself. The two of them understood each other in that specific way people do when they've lived parallel versions of the same story. Both married musicians, both went through public divorces, both had careers that were larger than life, both had to balance motherhood, pressure, and scrutiny while the world watched. But they weren't on the same path at the same time. Kelly was moving forward. She was rediscovering who she was after the dust settled. Gwen was still caught in the middle, torn between who she once was and who she thought she was supposed to become alongside Blake. Living separate lives. By November 2024, people began pointing out something odd about Gwen and Blake. They were barely seen together anymore, and it wasn't just a random observation from one fan scrolling through Instagram. Friends, followers, and even some industry folks were saying the same thing. The two of them seemed to be living completely separate routines.
Are they quietly heading for divorce? Because lately the vibes are just off.
It didn't feel like a scandal, just a growing distance that people couldn't ignore. Blake had basically stepped away from The Voice and slipped into a quieter rhythm. He was spending most of his time on his ranch in Oklahoma, doing exactly what he loves: hunting, fishing, and enjoying the calm. He has always been that kind of guy. Simple days, lots of land, and room to breathe. Gwen, meanwhile, was moving in the opposite direction. She was preparing for a No Doubt residency in Las Vegas, throwing herself into new music and staying immersed in creative projects. The Vegas commitment alone was going to demand a lot of time, energy, and presence, and it meant even more time apart from Blake. It was a big step for her, and one she seemed excited about. Their differences weren't new. They actually seemed fun at the beginning, like one of those opposites attract stories everyone roots for. He's the country boy at heart type who feels most himself in jeans and boots with a fishing pole nearby. She's the punk rock meets high fashion artist who gets energized by rehearsals, crowds, and bright lights. At first, those contrasts felt refreshing. But after years together, those same quirks started looking like two very different lifestyles that required a lot of compromise. People close to them said Blake often heads out on hunting or fishing trips that last a day or two, sometimes 3. For him, that's peace and quiet. For Gwen, who grew up in Orange County, where outdoorsy usually means a beach day, sitting in the Oklahoma wilderness waiting for movement in a lake isn't exactly her version of fun. And neither of them is wrong. They just recharge in completely different ways. Then something happened that made the public pay even more attention. In November 2024, Blake won a CMA award for his collaboration with Post Malone. It was Musical Event of the Year. Big deal, right? But Blake didn't show up to accept it. Gwen didn't either. A source said they planned to watch the show from home, and that was it. No extra explanation, no joint appearance. And that was unusual enough for people to start asking questions, because Blake skipping a major country award show, especially when he wins, just doesn't happen often. Fans began noticing little things too. Gwen hadn't posted a single photo with Blake since June. Going half a year without sharing anything of the person you're married to, especially when you're active online, felt strange. Eventually, in November, she shared a sweet Instagram story of Blake kissing her cheek, which honestly looked like a response to all the noise rather than a spontaneous moment. But damage control posts only go so far when the underlying issues remain. The first marriage that destroyed her. To really get why people still worry about Gwen, you have to look back at what happened with Gavin Rossdale. That breakup didn't just hurt her feelings. It took the ground out from under her. Her whole idea of what her marriage was supposed to be suddenly didn't match reality. Back in August 2015, Gwen filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. That alone didn't shock anyone. Celebrity marriages fall apart all the time. But the truth behind it came out quickly, and it was the kind of thing that hits like a punch to the chest. She found proof that Gavin had been involved with one of their nannies, Mindy Mann.
With the news of Gavin Rossdale reportedly having a 3-year affair with the family nanny, Mindy Mann.
And not because she went snooping. It turned up on the family iPad their kids used for games and shows. And that's where everything cracked. Think about getting your child's tablet, expecting to open some cartoon app, and instead stumbling into messages and photos that make your stomach drop. Another nanny in the house had already seen the texts and didn't sit on it. She told Gwen everything. The messages were explicit. The affair wasn't some brief mistake either. It had been happening for several years, all while Gwen believed this woman was looking after her children with care and respect. 3 full years. That's a long time to carry on 2 separate lives under the same roof. Gwen trusted both of them, and that trust evaporated in an instant. It wasn't just infidelity. It was deception woven into the everyday routines of her home, from school drop-offs to bedtime stories. When Gwen talked about it later, she didn't give every detail, but the emotion behind her words said plenty. She'd put so much into making the marriage survive that when it finally fell apart, she felt embarrassed and devastated. And that makes sense. When someone you love lies to you for that long, you don't just lose the relationship. You lose the sense that you can trust your own instincts. So when she later described meeting Blake as a second chance at life, people understood why. After feeling like her family had collapsed around her, she clung to anything that felt steady. But pain like that doesn't magically dissolve because someone new walks in. It follows you, shapes how you see things, and makes you more alert to cracks others might ignore. The sad truth. By the time April of 2024 rolled around, Gwen was speaking more openly than people expected. She sat for an interview and let slip a few things that felt surprisingly raw. She talked about those phases everyone goes through, the ones where you start asking yourself questions you don't really want answers to. Am I getting older? Do I still look good? Do I still feel wanted? She admitted she had been in that mindset. Even though she trusted what was happening in her relationship with Blake, her mind still created little storms over nothing. That's the kind of thing that lingers after a betrayal as deep as the one she lived through. It rewires how you think. Blake, around the same period, was saying things that showed he had his own insecurities. He and Gwen had been talking privately about the fear of love fading with age, or memory slipping, or life simply changing too fast. Neither of them said it in a dramatic way. It came off more like two people who have been through enough heartbreak to be terrified of losing the good parts they finally found. Still, Gwen kept insisting that everything between them was steady. She talked about feeling aligned with Blake, about their relationship being something no outside noise could shake. She brushed off the gossip cycles that kept popping up. Every week, there seemed to be another rumor, another headline speculating about their marriage. She waved them off as nonsense. But the more she tried to push back, the more people felt like something might be off. When someone keeps trying to prove that everything is okay, it sometimes hints that things might be more fragile than they appear. And honestly, the underlying truth isn't that Gwen and Blake are secretly falling apart. It's that Gwen has scars that run deep. She spent more than a decade in a marriage that betrayed her in the most personal way possible. That kind of wound doesn't just fade. It crawls into the way you think, the way you trust, the way you interpret silence or distance or a bad week. Even if someone loves you fully, that pain stays tucked inside, making you second-guess happiness the moment it settles in. Blake has his own history too. His divorce from Miranda Lambert was public, messy, and emotionally exhausting. When he and Gwen met, they connected over those shared losses. They leaned on each other because they understood the panic, the embarrassment, the feeling of being cracked open in front of the world.
I can remember when we first met each other and we were both like going through horrible times in our lives. And I remember I was like, okay.
Building a relationship out of mutual heartbreak can be beautiful, but sometimes it also means the foundation is a little shaky once life calms down. When the chaos ends, all the old fears surface again. Then you add the lifestyle differences. Those never disappeared. Gwen thrives on big creative projects, late-night writing sessions, designing stage looks, and getting lost in music. Blake is the opposite in many ways. He likes early mornings on the ranch, simple routines, long stretches of quiet. Their schedules naturally pull them in different directions. As their careers evolved over the past year, the time apart got longer. Their music also shifted. Fans noticed Gwen's songs leaning more into themes of hanging on and working through uncertainty, while Blake pulled back from the spotlight and stayed rooted in Oklahoma. Friends noticed too. Kelly Clarkson, especially, seemed worried. She has lived through her own painful divorce, staying longer than she probably should have because she didn't want to let go of the picture she had imagined. When she looks at Gwen, she sees someone else trying very hard to keep everything together. Kelly's been there. She recognizes the quiet panic behind the smiles. Then came December of 2024. Gwen and Blake appeared grocery shopping together in Los Angeles. They looked relaxed, chatting, laughing a bit. It helped calm down the chatter online. Gwen also talked during a morning show appearance about their December routine, explaining how they bounce between Oklahoma and Los Angeles, depending on where the kids are, where the work is, and what the holidays look like. The way she said it was casual, but you could hear the back-and-forth lifestyle in her voice. Two different worlds, two different rhythms, always trying to meet in the middle. And that's part of why people worry. It's not one dramatic sign. It's the accumulation of small signals. The distance, the schedules, the constant reassuring. The interviews that reveal more underneath than they mean to. None of it screams breakup, but it does paint a picture of a couple managing a lot more emotional weight than the fairy tale version ever shows. The hardest part of all of this is how much Gwen still carries from her past. 13 years of building a family and believing she had the life she always wanted, only to discover betrayal happening right in her own home. She has said before that her childhood dream was simple: a long marriage, a loving partner, a house full of kids. When that dream collapsed, it didn't just hurt her feelings, it crushed something she had spent her whole life holding on to. And even now, years later, you can feel the pieces of that loss in the way she talks about love and trust and fear. Kelly understands that kind of weight. She has talked openly about trying too hard, ignoring red flags, convincing herself everything was still worth saving. So when she sees Gwen and Blake navigating all these pressures, she doesn't see a glamorous couple fighting gossip. She sees two people still healing, still learning, still carrying the heavy stuff their pasts left behind. There's something in all of this that makes you wonder what the next few months will look like, whether their schedules will keep pulling them in opposite directions, whether the insecurities will grow louder or quieter, whether the music they release will reveal more than their interviews do, whether the people closest to them will keep stepping in with concern, or whether something else entirely is brewing behind the scenes that the public hasn't caught on to yet. What are your thoughts about Gwen and Blake? Do you think there's something we're not seeing yet? Share with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. While you're here, check out the next video that pops up on your screen. Thanks for watching.